Hey everybody, my name is Latrice Sampson Richards. I am a licensed professional counselor and a certified life purpose and relationship coach for Black women who are ready to heal from our past so we can build the future that we deserve. And you're tuned in to episode 35 of Unicorns Talk Podcast, your weekly girl talk about Black women, our healing and manifestation. I have a really great show planned for y'all, so let's go. Hello, hello, hello. Yes, this is the episode 35 of Unicorns Talk Podcast. Like I said before, my name is Latrice Sampson Richards, and I am so freaking excited to be here with y'all today. I feel like today's episode is like years in the making, and so I'm super excited about that. This week has been going really well for me so far, other than like my voice I don't know if you still hear it's a little raspy still. I don't know what's going on, but like I just have this, like my sinus was acting up a couple weeks ago, and it's just like taking forever to completely clear up. So I feel like I need to maybe do some extra care on my voice. But you know what? I'm trying to show up for y'all anyway. And so, like I said, this week has been going really well for me so far. I've really been able to make a lot of progress on some projects that I've been working on, and things really just seem to be like falling into place. Right before I started recording today's episode, Kanye lost his goddamn mind, okay? Again, which is not a new story at all, right? But this time it was with TMZ, and the black guy that works at TMZ, I think his name is Van Lathan, like he is the real MVP here because he finally said what every single one of us has been wanting to say to Kanye for a while now, which is that he needs to get his shit together because his words and his actions have a real life effect on the lives of people who are on the other end of that, like people like me and you, everyday people. And he, while he's out here doing whatever he wants, we're the ones that have to live with like the bullshit that he's spewing out. You know what I'm saying? One of my first ever Facebook lives was a little over a year ago, and it was about Ye, and how he really has kind of been on this downward spiral ever since his mother passed away. And so like I know that a lot of us don't want to acknowledge that trauma, or that his experiencing of that trauma is a participating factor in all of, I guess, what we can call like his madness right now. But it's real. Now in no way am I saying that Kanye gets a pass for his behavior, especially like his most recent behaviors, okay? But I do believe that we absolutely need to acknowledge that Kanye is not well, and he has not been well for a while now. But I will say this. When I was watching the video from the TMZ, like afterwards, when Van was like talking to him and stuff like that, like I felt like he did hear what was being said to him. I mean, you call me hopeful, call me naive, whatever you want to, but I really still believe that Kanye is in there somewhere. Like, I don't believe that Kanye has been lost. And I think maybe it's because of my experience with trauma and working with people with trauma. Like, I know that it's never too late. You can always come back from it. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that he's hidden behind like all of these layers of grief and unhealthy relationships, unrealistic and unmet expectations, disillusionment, possibly some drug use in there, and just a great deal of pain. Like I think he has been experiencing a great deal of pain for a significant amount of time, and he needs some help. So like I know that I don't typically open up my show like this. I know that this is real deep, this is a little heavy, you know what I'm saying? But this was heavy on my heart, because if this man does not get the help that he needs, this story will not end well for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm tired of seeing this happen to Black talent in Hollywood, or like just in the entertainment world in general. And as hard as it would be, I really feel like we need to love on him right now. You know? Like we really need to love on him now more than ever. And loving on him doesn't mean that we have to ignore his behavior or that he gets a pass or anything like that. But really it really just means like not giving up on him, praying for him if that's what you do. Or, I don't know, saying an extra seance or something for him if that's what you do. I don't know what y'all doing out there. You know what I'm saying? But, just letting him know that that there is an alternative, and that it's not too late for him to get his shit together. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to share that because it really was just heavy on my heart. Like I have been thinking about Kanye, and not just for the foolishness and all of this that's going on right now, but just like, I don't know, I feel like it has accelerated, and I'm genuinely concerned for him, and for his well-being. And I just feel like we need to love on him and things like that. I know some of y'all calling me crazy right now, but that is my professional opinion. And just in case anybody wanted to know, I said that. All right. Okay. So anyway, moving on. Today we have a conversation with the Unicorn interview featuring Bekezela Mguni. And Bekezela is the founder of the Black Unicorn Library and Archive Project in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so I'm super excited that I had the opportunity to talk to her because as many of you know, I have a blog called the Black Unicorn Project, and she and I, like, our paths have crossed a gazillion times, but we've never actually met. We've never actually talked to each other. But because our programs have, very identical names, she's always been like in my stratosphere and vice versa. And so like she really is one of those people that just like says like really deep shit without even realizing it. And like I really believe that you need those kind of people around. Like you really need to keep those kind of people around. So she's a very interesting person, and this was one of my favorite interviews thus far. So I'm pretty sure that y'all are going to enjoy it. Also, today's high five goes to Janelle Monae, the Electric Lady, aka the Arc Android. And so y'all, I love me some Janelle Monae, and she just gave us 14 new reasons to love her even more. All right. And then last but not least, this week's reality check goes to NASA. So we have a really good show prepared for y'all today, and I'm really excited about that. Like, for real, for real. If you haven't already, please make sure that you rate, comment, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you're listening right now. If you really enjoy my content and you think that other people would enjoy it as well, help a sister out or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, spread the word. Let the people know, hey, they got this Black girl over here and she like throwing magic all over the place and stuff like that. And I think you ought to give her a try because she's actually very intelligent and you might actually like her, or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And definitely, let me know that you're listening. Let me know that you're completing your homework assignments. We don't have any homework today, but, let me know that you're completing your homework assignments. Tag me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is that you're posting. And I would appreciate it. And I'll definitely give you a shout out in the next week's show. Okay. All right, so the interview with Bekezela is a little lengthy, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. So without further ado, here's my interview with Bekezela Mguni. Enjoy. Bekezela Mguni is a radical librarian, activist, artist, and abundant-bodied femme. She believes that the collective sharing of knowledge, beauty, and inspiration is a part of life's purpose and brings that intentional spirit to her work. Born in San Fernando, Trinidad. She immigrated to New York at the age of 11 and lived in the Caribbean neighborhoods bustling in the heart of Brooklyn and Queens before coming to Pittsburgh. She has over 10 years of community organizing experience in reproductive justice movement, in which she has worked with the LGBTQIA communities, youth, women, and people of color. She collaborates with various artists, educators, healers, and activists who seek to create new worlds and new meanings for this world. Without further ado, Miss Bekezela. Hi, Bekezela. How are you?
I'm good. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I am so well. I told you I'm like super, like ridiculously excited.
Oh my
Um, I really am. Like I'm extra excited about having an opportunity to, just kind of talk to you today because our paths have been crossing for a ridiculous amount of time now. So I'm just finally excited that we finally get an opportunity to talk and, really kind of get to know each other. So for those of you who are, really just tuning in or maybe are new listeners to me, as many of you know, I also have a blog, right? So people ask me all the time where I got the name for the podcast, Unicorns Talk Podcast. And the truth is that the podcast name kind of stems from the name of my blog. So I have a blog called The Black Unicorn Project, and I created the Black Unicorn Project about, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was. I don't remember exactly how long ago it was. And I like to think of it as kind of like an online community center, like a place where Black people can come and we can get enriched, enrich our lives. We can learn new skills, and just have a sense of home, a sense of community, and things like that. And so Bekezela also has a program called the Black Unicorn Project, but her program is a literary program. So we're going to talk about that a lot more as well. But over the last couple years, what happens is that, like on Instagram, like on all the socials and things like that, people are always tagging me in things that they're doing, like partnerships that they have with you. And so I'm like always in people's, all in the DMs and stuff like that. And I'm like, I think you have the wrong one. I think you have the wrong program. I think you're looking for, the other program. And so finally I was like, you know what? I am going to call this person. When I called you, I told you I didn't know what or who I was going to find on the other side, but I am glad that it was you and we really kind of hit it off, and I asked you to be on the podcast. So welcome.
Thank you so much. As I was listening to you, I was getting like kind of turned into this like memory of like, where did this all even begin?
Yes. Yes. So let's start there. Like where did this all begin for you?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I'm like, wow, this is about like 4 or 5 years as well. And it was different because it was always a Black unicorn, but it was a queer literacy project. And so as I'm thinking about you finding me now, I'm just like, wow, we all walk these journeys and have these experiences and things just shift and change. But yeah, it's really cool that people tag you because I'm glad, like it's a happy accident in a way that way, we're able to like discover like, oh, there's someone else doing interesting work that is aligned with work that I'm doing as well. But sometimes it's hard to connect with people, obviously because of distance. So I appreciate you reaching out to me and not hesitating, because I often think about, oh, what would it be like to connect to this person or that person, and sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. So it's a really positive, just a great moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when we talked the first time and you were saying, I'm just glad it ain't no drama, basically, like, and I'm like, no, girl, like this is all love. I feel like when, there's a lot of people that say that they're for the culture, hashtag for the culture, and they want to give the appearance that they're so involved in the community and that, you know, they want to do work in the community. But then there's so much drama that goes on behind the scenes. And I'm always so turned off by that, because I feel like if you're really hashtag for the culture, then, you know, there's no room for drama and things like that. Like, there's enough space for all of us to be able to get along. There's a place for each and every one of us to do our thing. And even though like we literally have the exact same name for our projects and our programs, I never once felt threatened by your program. I never once felt like, oh, that bitch, you know, da, 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 da. Like I never, like the thought never even entered my mind. And in fact, when I first discovered your program, because, you know, before you start a business, you always got to do some research, right? So when I was doing research, and I really do think we started like right around the same time, because I remember seeing one or two things about your stuff up there. But I was like, and so I was reading some of your things, or from what you had at the time. You have a lot more information now, I feel. But you know, at the time I could tell it was a literacy program. And I was like, okay, I was like, well, it's the same name. I said, but, you know, she's doing literacy, or whoever. I figured it was a she. It felt like a she, you know. I was like, she's doing literacy. I was like, and, you know, my thing is more like a holistic wellness kind of thing, like a, you know, generalized community building kind of thing. So from that point on, I was like, yes, like it's room for all of us. You know what I'm saying? Like we can, yeah. So I never felt like, you know, I hate when people say that they're all about the community and trying to uplift the community, but at the end of the day, it's really about accolades, you know, and that bothers me like you would not believe.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, like you were sharing, like your work comes from like a wellness lens. And, you know, just to think about like, why did I start the Black Unicorn Library and Archives Project? When I was looking at this old email, it was like I was saying before, it's a queer literacy project. But part of it is about, you know, how do we use literature as a mode for us understanding ourselves, for understanding what it means to think about freedom and liberation, especially because the work that I center in this is the work of Black women and Black queer and trans people and radical Black feminist perspectives, you know, because that for me really was like, oh, wow, these are Black women writing and literally saving my life by saying, hey, you exist in this world. You do not have to conform to any like white supremacist notions of who you should be. And you have to actually like fight that with all of yourself. And in some ways, it's really, like I was telling you before, my friend said, like, a group of unicorns is a blessing. And so, you know, I see for myself the way that this is a part of, like, my own practice of self-love, my own practice of self-care, my own practice of, like, committing to something and making sure that I'm, you know, purposefully working in the world to be mindful, you know, of, like, oh, yeah, you know, there's things that are important to share, so that we can all feel seen and felt, because it's difficult to exist in this world as a Black person, as a Black woman. And for me, literature and the writing of Black women has been like a space of being like, wow, you know, these folks are courageous, and this is powerful stuff, right? So to be surrounded by it is healing for me, and is life affirming, and is encouraging. And so I'm grateful for the stars aligning as they are, because, you know, I have a lot to learn just in general. And I think to be recommitted always to understanding, like, oh, you know, how do you commit to your creative projects? Because this is also like a form of creative expression for me. I'm also a librarian. I went to school for my library and information science degree, and it was like really interesting because I was like, oh, why aren't folks as worried or concerned about literacy, or, you know, the lack of interest in reading, or the challenges that we experience around literacy? And I felt like, oh, well, you know, that's something that is critical. So, you know, I also needed to create a space for myself as a librarian to practice those principles and to at least try to create community around that. And I found a lot of my community through the Allied Media Conference with the Radical Librarian track there, and meeting people who are like, oh, I'm a librarian and I understand, or I feel like I have a responsibility in these different ways. Because the project is also about thinking about, you know, the importance of libraries in our communities, and
Right.
celebrating them. And also, you know, like when I think about it, I'm just like, how did I'm like laughing at myself, because sometimes I have to like share like, oh, you know, my as a child, I grew up going to a library in Trinidad, and it was a Carnegie Library in San Fernando. And I did not know who Andrew Carnegie was at all. But who I wouldn't think that I would grow up and travel to the United States and come to live in Pittsburgh, you know, and he was, you know, Andrew Carnegie left the first, you know, public library here in Pittsburgh in the United States. And then he left this legacy of libraries all around the world. And to be connected to that legacy and is really powerful for me. There's something purposeful about that in my life, because I'm always wondering, what am I supposed to be doing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, how did you? That's I have so many questions. Oh my goodness. Which is a good thing. It's a good thing, you know, because the idea of, you know, you being a librarian, like this idea of a radical librarian, like I've never heard of a radical librarian before. Like I didn't even know that that was a thing necessarily. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so when I read that, I was like, okay, I definitely need to find out more information about that. So like what led you to become a librarian, like in general, not necessarily like we're going to get into how you ended up you know, telling queer stories or really focusing in on queer and LGBT stories. But I want to know, like, what made you say, I want to major in library sciences? Or like what, you know, if that's what your major is in, like, how did you get in pushed in that direction?
Well, I will say that my love of reading really began with my family and my mother and my father. And my mom, she came to the United States when I was 4 years old. And so my father raised me up until I was about 10, and then we came to the States. So she always sent me Black books. So I had like this really great collection. My father loved to read. So that was something I think is important for us to remember, like seeing that modeled for me was a big impression, and to see it be like a cool, interesting thing. But my mom, she always sent me books, and she would send me these really beautiful Black children's books. I remember I still have some of them. And she would always, you know, just write notes to me because she was away. And so I grew up with that experience and really loved reading. And I would always be in the library. So, like I said, I went to the Carnegie Library in San Fernando after school a lot. I would read the Babysitters Club. I was reading, you know, just everything that I could find my hands on.
Yes, the Babysitters Club. Oh my goodness.
My
Who
goodness,
didn't
shame
read?
about it.
Girl, like who did not read the Babysitters Club? Like I read the books. I used to watch the show,
Right.
like the whole nine yards. Yes, yes.
But I remember getting my first library card, and I remember San Fernando is long, and it couldn't fit on the card, so I wrote Sando, and the woman was like, "You can't write that on that. That's not a real word." But anyway, that was just like the shortened version. That's just a random story. But anyway, um, yeah, I grew up going to the library, and then when I came to the United States, the same thing. All the schools I went to, I found myself in the library, and in high school, I actually worked at the library, and in college I worked at the library. But the thing that really changed my the thing that opened me up to being like, oh wow, this is not just a random part of your life was my first job in Pittsburgh was through the Freedom School. And an amazing woman, her name is Tamanika Howe, she hired me to be a servant leader at the Freedom School here in Pittsburgh with the Lincoln Larmer School and the Kingsley Association. And are you familiar with Freedom School?
I am not familiar. I feel like I have heard about it before, but it's not something that I'm extremely familiar about. So Maybe
Yeah,
you
I
could
can
tell us
share
a little
a
bit
little
about
bit.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so her and Carl Redwood, and the reason I mention them is just because in Pittsburgh, they've just been really committed as two Black elders to like justice and work for cultural liberation here. And so them giving me this opportunity was really just a really important foundation for me to understand myself in this new city and also to be planted in a certain kind of way. But the Freedom School is started by the Children's Defense Fund, and Marian Wright Edelman, she was like the person that envisioned it in the Black Crusade for the Black Community Crusade for Children, and it was modeled after like the Freedom Ride. So they invite college-age students from all around the country to the Alex Haley Farm in Tennessee, and they train us for a week in the integrated reading curriculum, which is crafted by the Children's Defense Fund and various educators and literacy experts. And they also use the Ella Baker trainers to teach us like the social justice relationship between, the freedom rides and the importance of literacy for Black people in this country, and how that's connected to, it was connected to voting rights, but it was also connected to just a greater scale of freedom and liberation. And so being entrenched in that, I was a servant leader for 2 years. It was really powerful. We got to go to Alex Haley Farm, and we were there for a week, and the Langston Hughes Library is on the farm. And we also got to meet and hear from civil rights leaders who were living in the South at the time, and who just, made such great contributions to the civil rights movement. So they were really pairing this importance of culturally relevant education, making sure that Black children saw Black faces in the books that they read, because we know that makes young Black children want to read more when they see themselves in stories. And then also showing the relationship between creating a desire for learning and excitement to want to learn to read to improved, reading outcomes. So they train young people, and they teach us chants and cheers, and they teach us how to set up a classroom and just really equip us to lead in the spaces and communities that we live. And then we go back to our communities and we spend, the summer doing this work. And it's really exciting. I still get excited. I don't know if you hear it in my voice, because we have like Harambe read aloud, and
I do hear it in your voice, and I can tell that, yeah. And I mean, that's amazing. Like it really is. I can tell that it made a real impact on your life. And as I'm just sitting here, like listening to you talk about your experiences and things like that. And I'm just like, wow, like all of those things, I feel like I can see all of that even in the work that you're doing today. So all of that foundation that was laid for you all those years back, people sewing into you, and now you've created your own platform to be able to sow into the next generation, and that's how this thing happens. Like, that's how we heal our community. It's like one generation at a time. If you put into and feed into and pour into the younger generation, then that generation is going to grow up and they're going to do the same thing for the generation coming after them. And I think that, just listening to your story, it's a perfect example of that in work, like in reality.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for you to say that.
Yeah,
Honestly, like, I think I'm still figuring out so many things, and I can hope that that's the measure or the way that it can be, because, I think that's like the most important thing, to actually, like, when you feel like you've connected with somebody else and they feel sort of like moved by you or moved by whatever the intention is, and they feel like connected or like a catalyst inside of them in some way. I don't know. When you're talking, I think a lot about the elders, like you said, who've sown into me. And I'm like, wow, they really did create something for me. And what does it mean for me to even be able to think about being responsible in that way, and like trying to make a contribution, like you said, that does that for other people. Because it is humbling, because I'm like, oh, I'm really just trying to like do something that makes some some
yeah, just
contribution to the efforts, but not like wild out or do anything crazy.
yeah, you're just trying to like leave your mark on the world. And I think, one of the things that I immediately was left with, like after our first conversation, is just how humble you are, which is, I think, it's a good thing to a certain extent, but then it can also be limiting sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Because you have this really powerful kind of like energy around you. And even though I've never been physically in your space, I told you before, like, I think I'm a pretty good reader of energies. And I really don't believe that you have to be in the room with an energy in order to be able to feel it or in order to be able to experience it. And so like you have like this energy around you, like, you get excited when you're talking about the work that you do. I can hear the passion come through you as you talk about, like you rolling all of these names off of your okay, that's my alarm. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
I don't know why everything decided to start ringing all at the same time, but hey, that's what
Like you're
happens.
on point now, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
But yeah, like I can hear it in your voice and in your experiences, and that foundation was laid for you. But when you talk about yourself, then you kind of get like, oh well, I'm just out here trying to do some things. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're very much humble. And I love that to a certain extent, because I think it's a really clear marker that you really are about the work, like that for you, it really is about the work. But then at the same time, I think it's so important for you to really, really acknowledge and embrace what it is that you're actually bringing to the table, because what you're doing, I can't do, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I bring my own set of things to the table, but what you are doing, I cannot do that. And there is not another person that currently exists in the world that can bring to the table what you bring. Everything that has been sold into you from your mother, leaving you behind to pursue a better life. Like, that was an experience that contributed to you being the person that you are today and doing the work that you're doing right now. That time you spent with your dad where he was reading books to you and y'all were like just indulging in that alternate world of, of fantasy and books and things like that. Like, that's a unique experience that you had that contributed to making you who you are. So what you bring to the table, it's impactful and it matters. And, I just loved, I mean, this is what I do for a living. I'm a life coach, and I specifically focus on Black women. And I'm always a really big component of Black women really taking ownership and seeing what you bring to the table. Like, you don't have to minimize yourself. You are like the shit, you know what I'm saying? For all intents and purposes, girl, you are the shit for real. And so, I'm honored just to be able to have this conversation with you and to learn more about the Black Unicorn Literary and Archives Project. So, Library and Archives Project. I apologize. So, tell us a little bit more about the project itself. I know you said it started off as just really kind of telling queer stories, but what was that transition like? From where you first began the program, and what does the program represent now?
yeah, so I'm looking at an email and one of my earlier versions of a logo, and it's like morning inspirations. And one of my friends who is just her name is Joy Kemet. I think you would love her as well. She also sometimes feels like a unicorn. But she is just someone who does a lot of work also with Black women to help them find their own voices. But I was sharing with her some things that I was working on, and there's this annotated bibliography that I actually found in this like rare bookstore, and it was, I think, published in 1981 by a white librarian. Her name is J.R. Roberts. and who identified as a lesbian. And I guess in her efforts of allyship, she created this publication. And it was really powerful because, you know, she talked about hearing things like there wasn't anything, no literature written about or by Black women who loved women. And so it's called Black Lesbians, an Annotated Bibliography. And it's just this really powerful collection of just resources, you know, just existing through time of Black women. And in the foreword of it, Barbara Smith wrote to Audre Lorde, and she's like, is it possible to be a Black lesbian writer and survive? And Audre Lorde responds, it's difficult, but possible. And that just stuck with me. And of course, I'm paraphrasing, but the difficult yet possible is a very important piece, because I just feel like that is critical in terms of being really fair about what life as a Black person and Black woman is like.
Yeah.
But beautiful, right? And still all of the things. And so I think in Audre Lorde, who is a big inspiration for the project Black Unicorn, it's named after a body of her work in the poem. You know, she talks about us being able to be all of ourselves, like the entirety of who we are. We don't have to show up, you know, hiding any part of ourselves. And so, yeah, I think that may not be easy for everybody, but it's possible. But anyway, I think for me, as I said before, Audre Lorde, reading her book, Zami, I read her and Stacey and Chin around the same time, Stacey and Chin's first chapbooks, and all of everything that I'm sharing, literally pours out into the work, because they've been the Queer Caribbean Literature series I just did a few months ago, this in the most recent months, and we presented Stacey and Chin here in Pittsburgh. But that's been I've been in Pittsburgh 16 years, so that's been 16 years in the making since I first read her chapbook, and have been wow, you know, this Black woman lived her life in this courageous way, and I want other people to read her story, you know, because that's how I learned it, and that's how those I find are the modes that people are most transformed by and connect to in certain ways. And so, you know, I feel wow, I mean, it's taken a lot to get here, a lot of journeying and life and love and heartbreak and growth and understanding and all kinds of things, hustling and curiousness and courageousness and fear and all that jazz. So I'm it's a mix, you know. I think it's a vehicle for me to express myself, but it's also something that I'm thinking out about, you know, more than myself. When we have an opportunity to work with different people, it begins to change the shape of things. And so I think I'm in a place of being oh, well, how does this continue to grow and reflect all of, you know, the parts that are being poured into?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was sitting here just contemplating your words. I love talking to people who read. I'm not a big reader myself, but I do enjoy knowledge, and I enjoy attaining knowledge. And so I will read, not necessarily I'll read things that are enriching, and you know, I have to be really, really interested in it to read it. But I do audiobooks and things like that also, because I still want to get that knowledge and I still want to get that information. And so I'm processing all of the words that you're using, because words mean things, you know, words have actual meanings. And you know, I just really enjoy how particular you are about the way that you string your words together. You know what I'm saying? You're very, very particular about the specific words that you use. And I appreciate that. And I feel like it's thought provoking. I don't know about y'all that's listening. I don't know about everybody else. But what I do know, okay, is that I am definitely looking forward to like listening to this over and over, because I feel like I'm going to hear more and more about what you're saying, because you're dropping these little gems, like you talked about Audre Lorde, and you talked about, this idea of, it's difficult, but it's possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, girl, I feel like that's a whole podcast episode in and of itself. Like, just that, you know what I'm saying? Like, just that one statement. It was like, you said it, and I heard it, but then I processed it. You know what I'm saying? And then after you processed it, I was like, damn, like, like, so anyway, that's, I guess, just a sidebar. My listeners, they know I do that sometimes, girl. I get off the subject every now and then, but I mean, I was listening, I am listening to everything that you're saying. And so back to the project, right? So you started off telling the queer stories, and so do you identify as being a part of the LGBT community?
Yes, very much so. It's funny because someone was like, how do you identify? I was like, I feel like I'm a radical Pan-African lesbian.
I'm the one your daddy told you about. Yes, absolutely. So for you, I mean, I have an episode coming up in a couple weeks that I'm going to be doing with Jaden Hollywood. Hey, Jaden, I know you're listening, from Unapologetic Podcast. And it's going to be like my Pride Month episode, And so we're going to be talking about intersectionality, because, what is it like for him, obviously being a Black man, but then also being a gay man, because, that intersection is, I mean, it's a doozy, like it's so many layers associated with both of those labels, I guess we can call them. And then when you pair those together, it just kind of compounds that. And so, it seems like you kind of find yourself in that same place, because being a Black woman in America, girl, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, being a Black woman in America is difficult at times. It's hard because there's so many expectations that the world puts on us just by virtue of being a Black woman. And so then when you add on top of that, being a lesbian woman, or being someone who identifies as queer, or, hashtag other, you know what I'm saying? What is that like for you, existing in that intersectionality, and how much of your own experience really contributes to the passion that you have for the work?
It's funny because this morning I was like, I'm feeling really grateful that I am a queer person. I watch The Handmaid's Tale. I know that's controversial for some people, because
girl, oh my goodness.
But I tell people I watch it for research as well, because this happened to our ancestors, right? Like this is, and it's in a white format, predominantly white format. And so white women are now able to be like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, maybe they're connecting, I don't know. But part of what I'm thinking about The Handmaid's Tale, I do think it's an important film. I think it's an important book, but I think what's happening with this new iteration of it, it made me think, wow, as a queer woman and someone who has to really exist outside of gender norms at times, like I don't have children right now. I don't have relationships with gender conforming people, and I may present in gender conforming ways as like a femme person, but I'm also subversive in various ways. And so it made me think about the reason why I brought up Handmaid's Tale, because it's this hyper world of what patriarchy how it wants to control women at every level, and their reproduction and how they show up in the world, and deny them pleasure. And I'm like, wow, being queer definitely interrupted a lot of things, I feel. It allows me to, like, it's not that I'm completely avoiding any of the stuff that, straight women or straight identified people might experience, but like, I think it does interrupt some of the ways that I'm expected to show up as a woman.
How so?
And I think that it interrupts it because, I mean, it's like a challenge for me, because I think I also straddle the fence of being like, oh, I want to be able to show up these ways and be accepted in these ways.
Yeah, so that, I guess that's the question, is in what ways, like in what ways do you feel like it like interrupts that? What are typical expectations that you feel like you kind of get a pass on?
I don't know if I get a pass.
All right, okay.
I think it's more that it just makes me wonder, like, what is my destiny around it? Like, my questions around, like, what is my destiny around having children, or what is my role in being in communities, or serving women with children, or being in connection to women with children and families, etc. And I've been a part of the reproductive justice community, and I'm a doula, and in different ways I've been around women and children and the friends that I have. But I think it's something that, as a person who doesn't have children yet, I think the role of motherhood is interrupted at times. I think about my role in my labor as a woman, and I also think about my role in my labor as someone who's not a parent, and my responsibilities around that. I think about what queerness means in terms of what it means to be an adult. And like, I think that I've had to, shake off expectations of being like, oh, well, you should be in this type of relationship, or have, this type of, you should be like married with children, for example. And I feel like that's something that, for a lot of people, we don't really, or women, we don't talk about what it means to be like in those spaces of like, oh, well, as a queer person, like even as an educator, people have told me like, you shouldn't work with children, right? I've experienced that kind of like discrimination and difficult like language, like that's painful to receive.
I could imagine.
And so, I think it has impacted how I have like, just how I move with young people, because I do work with young people all the time, but I think I'm very like aware that it's not accepted as a normal thing for queer people who are, who are all over the place, just like everybody else, to work with young people and children, and to be able to like feel like you just have to really be like, people don't think those are concerns that you have on your mind, but they are, because people criminalize you in big and small ways. And for people to have that attitude is very difficult and dangerous. And so I know for me, like, I'm just sharing something very personal, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I guess to answer your question, it does inform my work in every way, shape, or form. Like, I don't do this work as just a few parts of myself. I do this work as all the parts of myself. Even when those things are, even when I feel terrible, I'm doing this work. Even when I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know why because I know that to me, it's this, it makes me feel, I think one of the things that, a really great book is called Emergent Strategy by Asia Marie Brown. And it's just talking about, when things are more towards life, right? Thinking about when things are oriented towards like life choices, like life affirming choices, or focusing your attention so that it grows on the thing. Because where you focus your attention, that's what grows, right? So there's these different ideas. And I can't get into all of them, unfortunately. But, I think sometimes on your darkest days, the one thing that makes you feel alive, when you choose those things, it grows each moment. And then you start to feel better, and then you're like, oh, I feel better today. And of course, things go in cycles and ups and downs. But I think for me, as a queer person who grew up in the Caribbean, who never heard the word lesbian until she came to the United States and started watching Ricky Lake, I never saw myself. I never heard expressions of people who looked like me and who felt like me, or I didn't know they felt like me. And then when I started to come into adulthood and think, okay, well, where am I in history? Where am I in stories? Who like resonates with me? That's when I discovered like all the, you start to look and you start to find the information and you say, oh, well, I do exist. My ancestors, people who care and look like me and feel like me, or similarly in some way. But I think the issue with queer young people and feeling like they don't have spaces a lot of times is because we act like folks don't exist and like this is new. And we've always been here, we've always been here, and we may not have used these words, this language, but we have to know that, books are simply vessels for information that we have been sharing for a very long time. And it's not to say simple so we can discard them, but they're just the vessel. And it's the importance of sharing what's inside of them. That's like the important thing. So you have to think like, oh, we have stories inside of us. Our lives are important. And we have to think about what it means to share our stories for future generations, because you doing your work is going to save somebody, is going to inspire someone, is inspiring me, right? And helping me to reflect, like, yeah, you know what, like, there are people we are in each other's constellation, we're in each other's orbit, and we should like turn to each other and start connecting and start being like, hey, don't be afraid. Like, how are you?
Yes, absolutely. I agree 100%. I like the part when you said, you were talking about, oh goodness, what did you say? When an elder dies, a library burns down. I've never heard that before, but I think that's so true. Like it's so true, and it really speaks to the importance of that, having that community and doing what you can to leave a legacy for the people that come behind you. Like I think that's awesome and amazing. Just the whole idea of that, and that you're doing this through literature, because the books, they do hold our past, but they also hold the key to our future.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, girl, I wish that we were like face to face so that I could wrap my arms around your neck and just hug you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm thoroughly enjoying just having the opportunity to get to know you. I know, when you were talking earlier, and then, you kind of got wrapped into the conversation, and then you looked up and you were like, oh my God, I'm sharing so much information.
Because I don't want people to, I don't know if I'm being clear when I'm talking about that part. So I don't want folks to get like offended, but
No, this is a judgment-free zone, and this is the one place, like, me and my listeners, we have a very like deep connection with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, they talk to me, I talk to them. This is the place where we share those things, because, like I told you before, I think it's so important for us to be able to share our stories with each other. I'm not a Black queer woman. Like, I don't know what that experience is. And so I cannot speak to that. But I do have, some listeners who identify as, queer and Black. And so for them, just hearing your story and you telling your personal journey, talking about your personal journey, it helps to kind of validate their own experiences, but then it also helps to give inspiration for them that, you found a way to find your place in the world, and are still striving to find your place in the world. And so maybe if I'm at home and I'm listening to this and I'm struggling to find my place, just hearing another person who's gone through it or is going through it talk about it, it gives me hope that maybe I can do it as well. You know what I'm saying? So we are all about sharing our personal journeys here. Like that's what this is all about. And so there's no such thing as the overshare. You know, like I listen, girl, I tell my listeners way too much information. They know so much about me, it's ridiculous. So you know, I'm just honored that you even feel comfortable enough to be able to share in that way, you know, like to be able to share in such a personal way, because it really, you never know when you're touching somebody's life and when you're having that kind of impact on somebody's life. And I'm sure that, you know, I'm sure y'all gonna start sending us the emails. I'm gonna start getting comments and emails and things from people saying how much this helped them just listening to you talk. So you never know, you know what I'm saying? You never know. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like the different programs, specific programs that y'all have going on. I know I have been, girl, y'all have been busy, busy, busy here lately because I have been tagged in so many different things for y'all. And I'm like, I keep having to send people messages and things like that, you know, which I'm definitely going to give you a chance in a few minutes to let them know what your actual social media stuff is. But talk to us a little bit about what kind of programs you do, and how people can donate or help out, if at all.
Great. So we have a physical space, and we're actually getting in the process of moving, but we have pop-up hours every Friday from 1 to 6, and then we have availabilities for folks to use our space and special events. And so we do a lot of programming, and we're connected to Boom Concepts, which is located in Pittsburgh as well. It's a creative hub of artists who just are really innovative and dope. And so Boom Concepts supports Black Unicorn in a lot of different ways. And we're on the campus of Boom Concepts. So we are located in different parts of the city of Pittsburgh. And so one of the things that we do is we have open hours. We also have had all types of programs. So most recently, and we do partner with the Pittsburgh Black Feminist Reading Group. We have different reading sessions, reading group sessions, and we have discussions and really just build with each other and hang out and have fun. And it's just a space for us sometimes to talk about a lot of different things we're experiencing. But one of our main programs that I'd like to share was the Queer Caribbean Literature Series. And we are reading the works of various authors from the Caribbean and the diaspora. So folks who are still living there, but also living around the world, who have experiences and ancestry connected to the Caribbean, who identify as LGBTQ. And we were really excited and fortunate to bring in Stacey Ann Chin. She's the author of The Other Side of Paradise, and it's a memoir. And she was on, she's like a phenomenal poet, and you may have seen her on Def Poetry Jam as well. But, you know, it was really powerful because her work really speaks about, it's very personal, right? It speaks about her life, and it also shines a light on some of the experiences that people experience who are queer or trans in their own home community. And so it's interesting because as a Black person, I feel like I'm diasporic. Like my experience in the United States, I'm Black everywhere I am. And I'm also Black and queer. And so to live, like when I came out to my aunt in Trinidad, she said, don't tell anybody else, you know, and that was like an act of love for her. Because she thinks, and she is protecting me in certain ways, but even though she was very like, she was warm about it, she was also like cautious. And so to be queer in the Caribbean is a mixed bag. Trinidad actually just decriminalized same-sex intimacy like 2 weeks ago. And so that's like a really big and historical deal. But in other parts of the Caribbean, many things are still illegal and still met with a lot of violence. And that's not unique to the Caribbean, right? It happens in the United States, it happens in South Africa, it happens all over. But I think the purpose is really to lift up the stories, because one of the reasons we experience so much violence is because people want to erase us from the culture. And that's all Black people around the world who experience this violence. Like, any form of violence is a form of erasure as well. And, you know, we were able to have, we had like 40 people reading this book together, and then we had 150 people come out to support and read this narrative. And in Pittsburgh is in one of the whitest metropolitan statistical areas in the country. It's really interesting. It's been quoted as the most livable city in the United States. But that's very questionable depending on who you are. And so for me, I feel like it's just really, I'm really grateful that we're able to like lift up a narrative and a voice and voices of people who are traditionally made to feel like they're not really here or they're not as important as others. But we, you know, have been reading, and we had like community talk about the book, and folks came out, and that was really lively. We talked about religion and its role in, you know, homophobia, but also in the Caribbean. We talked about just across intersections of African culture across the diaspora, and how we have to mend the relationships between Black Americans and people from the Caribbean and people from the continent. So it was a very rich conversation. And then we're also working on early literacy programs as well. And we have partnerships with the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh and the Braddock Public Library, so people can actually sign up for library cards that work in all of the libraries around the county, and they can check books out and they can return books as well. And so, yeah, we have like a few different cool aspects. And we're also part of the Braddock Art Lending library. So we have a few of their pieces where you can actually check out pieces of art and have them in your home for a period of time and then return them to the library. So we're working on building those partnerships, and also, you know, continuing the different programs that we've done. Like we've had like comic and drawing classes for 8 to 10-year-olds. We've had just so many different things. I don't want to just run down a list, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that y'all have been very, very active in the community, and I think that, I don't know, I just think it's so amazing for you to be doing the work that you're doing, because it's so necessary. But not just, you know, as I'm listening to you talk and like really describe your programs and describe like the purpose of a lot of these programs, you know, I feel like the thing that keeps coming up for me is it's not just for people who identify as being a part of the LGBTQ community, but it's also for people who are outside of that community to be able to really gain a deeper understanding and increase their tolerance, you know. And like, I think the whole idea is to highlight the stories so that the people who identify within the movement can feel more comfortable about sharing their stories and living their lives and just being who they are, but then also to be able to afford them the opportunity to do that without fear, because the people who do not identify as being a part of that community can learn how they can be an advocate or how they can be an ally versus being an adversary, you know. And so I feel like there's a lot of benefit both ways that your programs and your offerings really, really provide. And it seems like the community is really opening their arms to you and you know, really just kind of willing to take in that information. And so I'm just, you know, in awe of everything that you have going on. I feel like your Black Unicorn Project is so much better organized than mine.
No, never. Oh my gosh, your website, like, okay, we're gonna fangirl each other for a minute.
Right.
I'm like, you're incredible. I love your website. I love what you share. I think you're hyper organized. I'm like, yes. I'm like, can I be like you?
Girl, listen, but like,
I know it's all a journey, so I don't have any like random power expectations, but I'm just like, yeah, I know.
It is. It's all a
You're
journey. And
you're
as I'm like, I'm listening to you talk and my mind is always, rolling. And I'm like, how can I, like, I definitely feel like it only makes sense that there's some type of collaboration that needs to happen here. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we are so definitely connected in a lot of ways, both, professionally, but then also, I mean, I do feel a connection to you. We don't come from the same place, but like you're the type of person I like to keep around. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I don't necessarily enjoy reading a lot, I feel like you need to keep smart people around you. So that, like you're one of those people that we'll be talking, just having coffee or something, and you'll say something real, real deep. And I'm like, damn girl, that's why I fuck with you. That's why I keep you around. You know what I'm saying? Like that, this is why I keep you around. Like I feel like everybody needs to have a Bekezela in their corner. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and let everybody know. I mean, but we are definitely going to figure out a way to
Yeah,
collaborate.
that would be cool.
That is absolutely going to happen. This is just the first of I think the beginning of a very long, strong connection that we're going to make. And I actually just acquired a new manager for the blog. And so because I just, it's hard to manage it, continue to manage it on my own. And I feel like I've been slacking on it. So I don't want that to happen either, because it's my baby. It's very important to me. So now that, I have this manager that's going to be working with me, she'll be able to get things up and running. And she's like right up your alley, girl. You definitely going to love her. But in the meantime, go ahead and let everybody know all of your socials, all of your, like, how can they get in touch with you if they want to, volunteer or donate in any way, how they can do that, and then any upcoming events that y'all might have.
So you can get in touch with us at our Facebook page. It is at Black Unicorn Project. And also, if you want to connect via Instagram, it's Bekezela.Mguni at Bekezela.Mguni, and also at Zami Queen, Zami Queen, on Twitter. But I'm always down for folks to just email me. So blackunicornproject@gmail.com. And I appreciate folks reaching out if they want to donate books. We do have an Amazon wish list that we can share. You can search under Black Unicorn Library and Archives Project. And also we love to share visual art from artists. So if you ever want to connect in that way, we have space, and we always love to share that. And we're connected to various folks, so I just really appreciate all the people that support the Black Unicorn Project, who helped to make this happen, because it's very collaborative. And if you have ideas and you feel like we could work together, I'm happy to connect with people. But yeah, so you can donate via the website. And I know there's lots of different things. I feel like that's why I'm like, you have it in a nice, beautiful format. But I have, if you'd like to do a financial donation, there's the PayPal link on BekezelaMguni.com. So those are ways that folks can support. And yeah, I think there are a lot of people that have inspired this work, and people doing work around the country and world that I think is great. So I feel like I just want to keep being able to highlight those types of things. So, one of the projects that I like a lot is a Free Black Women's Library. And she highlights Black women's writers as well. And that's one mobile library project. And there's another project out of Chicago. And so when I heard of your Black Unicorn, I felt like it was literary as well. But now it's a fuller awareness of all the things that you are doing. But yeah, there are different Black women. So the Free Black Women's Library, as I mentioned, Ola Ronke out of New York. But then there's like all these amazing Black women writers and Black women media makers. And I just feel like, and, librarians and archivists and all those folks that are creating in this library world. So that's exciting for me. Yeah, also shout out to Alexis Pauline Gumbs and Black Feminist Bookmobile. So shout out to all the Black women doing work of creating work, in terms of literature, and also developing collections and archiving this culture development. It's amazing.
Yeah. You have like a million books behind you. I'm like, has she read all of those books? Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Girl, your brain. So this is how weird. So this is when I nerd out.
To read. Yes, and I haven't all.
Listen, this is when I nerd out, like from a psychology standpoint, because I'm a LPC, I'm a licensed professional counselor and a certified life coach. So this is when like I really nerd out, because I'm looking at all of the books that you have behind you, and I'm saying to myself, man, she has so many neurons firing in her brain right now, like just all of the connections that you must have, and pathways that must exist in your brain. It is phenomenal. I love that. I love that. So anyway, the Black Unicorn Project, right? So my program, my blog, it is more of it is more of a generalist kind of ideal, right? It's about all of the different pieces that make us up, but definitely the arts, including the literary arts and visual arts, is an area that we haven't really tapped into. We're actually just starting to tap into it, like dance and things like that, like really doing some think pieces around that. But I definitely want to focus more on that as well, and like bring that to light. And I love all of the work that you're doing. I'm going to put links to everything that you have going on your website, all of your social media. Just keep in mind that to get to Bekezela, it's Black Unicorn Project, and to get to me, it's the Black Unicorn Project. So that one little word makes a little bit of a difference there. But I'm going to put links to everything in the show notes, and please consider donating to Black Unicorn Project and to the literary program. And I think it's an amazing thing that y'all are doing. I love the book donation. I'm definitely going to be donating some books through Amazon. Girl, I feel like I need to go ahead and purchase stock in Amazon. It's so ridiculous. But I'm definitely going to donate some books through the Amazon program that you have set up. And I think that the work that you're doing is so awesome and amazing. And I cannot wait to see like how you continue to grow it, and really, how we'll be able to collaborate in the very near future. I'm really excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it. And thank you so much for just pouring your heart and soul into it, and doing the boots on the ground kind of work, because I think it's easy, everybody wants to say that they're doing this or doing that, and that they're, like I said earlier, like that they're for the culture. But when it comes down to the come down, are you really, and I think that you're one of those people that, as the Migos say, you walk it how you talk it.
Hey. Yes, okay.
You walk it how you talk it, boo. And
that is what? That's like the realest thing anybody could ever really say.
Yes, ma'am. And that is something that it's a blessing in and of itself. And your community is very lucky to have you. Our community is very lucky to have you. So thank you, boo.
Oh, thank you so much. You're a blessing. And I have to really sit with all of this.
Yeah.
Because, whenever we talk again, maybe offline, you'll see my heart. But yeah, I really appreciate this. And thank you so much for, really encouraging me and lifting me in this way. Is very affirming to be welcome on your platform, and for you to just share with me in this way. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's all I got. It's all the questions I have for you in terms of, being here on this episode, but this will not be our last conversation of this. I am certain.
Thank you.
Of this, I am certain. All right. Thank you.
Have a good one. Good night.
Do you see what I mean, like about her? Like, do you really understand now what I was saying about how freaking awesome and amazing she is? Like, this woman is so freaking amazing in real life, and she's so passionate about the work that she's been called to do. I mean, I don't know, like Bekezela is truly a pillar in her community and she's really just getting started. So we've already started discussing how and how we can and how we will be collaborating in the future. And so I'm gonna make sure that I let y'all know when that happens. It's not a question of if, it's really a question of when. That is definitely going to happen. Please consider donating to her program, the Black Unicorn Library and Archive Project, whether it's financially or via book donations. Just help her out and donate whenever possible. If you live in the Pittsburgh area, attend and support her events, and add to the conversation, But I think more importantly, I think it's important for us to, do your part to create and foster tolerance of others in our community, regardless of sexual orientation, regardless of, gender identification or gender presentation, especially with our young people. Bekezela is a real life example of how the works and choices of a few can have such a monumental impact on the masses. And I would love to know, I would love to know what you're doing in your community and highlight that here on the show. Head on over to latricesampsonrichards.com/unicorns talk pod to shoot me a message. You can fill out the contact form, or you can just send me an email at unicornstalkpodcast@latricesampsonrichards.com and let me know what you got going on. I would love to highlight it. I would love to, support that. Like, I'm all about us rebuilding our community and doing it the right way. So if you have something going on and you want people to know, I mean, I'm still building my audience over here or whatever, but I have a little bit of an audience. And so, let me know if you have a community event going on or a program or something that you're doing in the community. Let me know, and I would definitely do a highlight. I think I don't know, I might even want to do like a weekly highlight where I highlight a different program every week. I might look at doing something like that, but let me know. And thanks again to Bekezela for just being so open and willing to share of herself with me, or really with us today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All right. Okay, coming up next is High Five. So it has been almost 5 years since Janelle Monae gave us new music. And I will admit, in the very beginning, I was a little late getting to the black and white party, okay? But now I is here. And I absolutely stand for Miss Monae. All right. Last week, she released her new album, Dirty Computer. And she also released, along with that, a 46-minute emotion picture, as she calls it. And so I finally got a chance to sit down and watch the emotion picture on YouTube on this Saturday while I was folding clothes. And OMG, y'all, let me tell you how I got my whole entire life. Okay, I freaking love Janelle Monae. I love pretty much everything about her, but what I really love is just how free and open that she is, and I really am enjoying this new direction that she's taken with her music and with her message. Over the last couple of months, she has released 3 singles from this album. The first one was Make Me Feel, Then she did Django Jane, and then Pink. Okay. And so, listen, I was amazed by the level up in the overall production when I saw the videos for each of these singles a couple weeks ago. But I feel like it was a whole different level of awesomeness, like to see them all put together with the full vision in like this emotion picture that she's created, like to see the whole story, the whole vision, to watch it unfold. I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, please do yourself a favor and check it out on YouTube ASAP, you know. But one of the things that I've always loved about Janelle Monae is her willingness to be different, you know. Her first two albums were centered around kind of like this alter ego that she created called Cindy Mayweather, which is kind of like it's kind of like an android living in an alternate world where humans are trying to make her conform. But of course, you know, Cindy ain't having it. You know what I'm saying? Even though this album kind of veers away from the Cindy Mayweather concept, it's still full of messages around individualism and feminism. And I did get the vibe. Like, I still got that Cindy Mayweather vibe from time to time. It's not the exact same thing, but, you know, you could tell that it was a continuation of that in some way, you know. She also talks about race. She talks about race relations. She questions what it really means to be American and this idea of what it means to make America great again. She touches on sexuality and the expectation of gender conformity, like in her lyrics, but then also throughout the visuals. Like the video for Pink, she's wearing like pussy pants. And can I give y'all a side note real quick about the word pussy? I have always had an aversion to using the word pussy. And I just realized, honestly, literally like 3 weeks ago, that I no longer have that issue with saying that word or with using that word. I always felt like it was just not ladylike. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, it just, I never felt comfortable using the word pussy. And now, I mean, I'm not just like out here, you know, running up and down the street yelling pussy, 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 like I just did just now. But y'all get what I'm saying, you know, like I think as I've grown to really understand myself and giving and have really started giving myself permission to be who I am and to express myself in whatever way that I choose to express myself. Like, I definitely feel like um something as small as being comfortable with saying the word pussy, it may not seem like it's a big deal to most people, but for me, it is a major step in just accepting myself and being more comfortable in my own skin. And so, yeah, there's that. That was my overshare for the week. Um, y'all know I do that from time to time. But anyway, she wore these pink pussy pants in that video, and like people was trying to give her a hard time because they're saying like as a black woman, like black women's vaginas are more likely to be brown. And I'm like, yeah, but there's pink in there too. It don't matter what color it is on the outside. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen the inside of that many. I feel like this conversation is taking a turn, and I'm not sure if I don't know how they come back from that. But y'all know what I'm saying. Like, it's still pink. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still pink. Like, this is genetics. This is how this shit works. You know what I'm saying? It's flesh on the inside, you know? And so anyway, high five to Janelle Monae. Like, this entire album is just so fucking awesome and amazing and unapologetically black and unapologetically femme and badass, and I love it. And so high five to Janelle Monae for having the balls to live life on your own terms and for being a free ass motherfucker. High five, boo. High five. All right. Moving on to this week's reality check, which goes to NASA. So apparently, NASA was running a research competition for high school students to win a trip to NASA. So a team of three black girls from Benjamin Banneker Academic High School in Washington, D.C., entered the competition and they were at the top of the leaderboard. They ended up getting like 78% of the public votes as a result of well, I think it was a result as a result of a request for support that went viral. I'm not completely sure, but I know that they were at the front. Like they had 78% of the vote. And so the girls, their names are Bria Snell, India Skinner, and Michaela Sharif, I think is how you say that. Well, their project is called they work with the N3 incubator program, and so their project is basically trying to create a filtration jar that will filter water continuously, and it also detects the pH imbalances in order to purify public school water systems. And this is something that is both, it's very useful and very innovative at the same time, right? So originally, the winners were supposed to be decided by a public vote, but the person who oversees the program closed the public voting a day early, saying that there were attempts made to corrupt the public choice voting for grades 9 through 12. So basically saying like they got hacked or something like that. And as a result, they ended that stage of the voting early for that particular category, and they took the public voting scores down. Now, the official contest rules did not say anything about prohibiting the solicitation of votes. So the girls were not in violation of anything. And while, obviously the organization said they didn't say it directly, I feel like we all know why the contest manager made that decision. And it's fucked up. So there's an organization called Black Women Who Plan and Create, and they created a GoFundMe to raise money for the girls to be able to continue their STEM and scientific endeavors, regardless of the outcome of NASA voting. And I researched and I tried to find information on like what the outcome was, and I hadn't been able to find it. So I don't know if that selection hasn't been made yet or what, but I couldn't find out like what actually ended up happening with that. But reality check NASA's Goddard, wait, what is it? NASA Goddard's Optimus Prime spinoff promotion and research challenge. You could never stop a black girl from shining. These young ladies are intelligent and they are worthy of everything life has in store for them. So, no matter what the reason for your sudden change in contest rules was, I just want you to know that we got us and we will always have us. And so, I just, it sucks that in this day, like in 2018, this is still something that happens. But this is our reality. And I love that the community stepped up to support these young ladies and make sure that they know that the sky is the limit for them. And so I will be donating to their GoFundMe account. And so, I recommend that, everybody does as well. I'm issuing that challenge. You know what I'm saying? That's your homework for the week. Go support these black girls and let them know that their STEM careers matter and that their innovation is something that we need to see in this world. So that's it for my reality check this week. Let's see. Shout outs. I do have a few shout outs. I want to give a shout out to the Friend Zone podcast. As y'all know, the Friend Zone is one of my favorite podcasts. I really enjoy this show. Last week's episode was titled The Other Side of Therapy, and it featured Jarrell Caraballo, I think is how you say his name, who is a therapist. He's an LPC in the New York area. And so he basically talked about like the reality of being a therapist, like the side that people don't ever see. And I really appreciated that conversation because as a therapist, I feel like people don't really understand what it means or what it's like to be a therapist. And in fact, one of my friends who also listens to the Friend Zone podcast, he called me afterwards and he was like, bitch, like he was just like, I didn't know like like they were asking questions that I never even thought to ask you. And I was telling him, like, I feel like the responses that he gave were very accurate. Like everything that he said, just about everything that he said, I was amening, like all of that. Like the reality of being a therapist is not what everybody thinks it is, you know? I love being a therapist. I love the work that I do, but there is another side to it. We do have a life in real life. And so a part of what I choose to do on this platform, or a part of like what I use my platform for, because it's not just this, it's also like my blog and it's also my vlog and, you know, like my Facebook group and things like that. Like a part of what I want to do is just help to kind of like destigmatize and like help to normalize, like, yes, I am a therapist. I studied for this. I trained for this. I'm damn good at my job. However, I'm a human being too. And at the end of the day, I'm just trees. And I have things that I'm dealing with. I have struggles. I'm a real person on the other side of this. And so, you know, I just really appreciated that episode. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you go back and check out last week's episode, The Other Side of Therapy, on the Friend Zone podcast. It's really definitely, it's just interesting to say the least. Okay. Also, shout out to Black Mary Fly podcast. This week I've been catching up on my episodes. So I was like 2 episodes behind, and then a new episode comes out tomorrow, I think it is. But anyway, I was a couple episodes behind, so I listened to the part 1 of their guest feature with Jasmine Blue, and I really like her. Hey, Jasmine. I really like the banter. I really like the tone of her voice and things like that. It's a really good show, you guys. Y'all should listen. I'm going to try to catch the second half of it tomorrow, and, you know, like maybe get caught up this weekend all together. But shout out to Black Mary Fly podcast for always showing love. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all, and I can't wait to see y'all in real life. And then also shout out to my accountability partner. Her name is Vina, and she lives in Australia. And Vina, if you're listening, hey girl, I just want to give a shout out to her because she really has pushed me. We've been accountability partners for the last couple of weeks, I think 2 or 3 weeks now. And she really has pushed me in a lot of ways, in terms of growing my business. She's my accountability partner in business. And I just really appreciate her, and her insights and things like that. So shout out to you, Vina. Can't wait to talk to you soon, girl. I do have a few announcements. Of course, the Empower Your Vision Masterclass is still going on, and it is still completely free. Make sure you claim your spot. The Masterclass is going really well. Every Monday inside of our closed Facebook group for the Empower Your Vision Masterclass, I do a free live stream Q&A, and that is your opportunity to get direct access to me as you move through your journey. The Masterclass is so awesome and amazing, you guys. It is designed for anybody who says, like, I'm ready for a change. I just don't know how to make it happen. This is where you start. Like, this is the blueprint. It's not going to change your whole life in 5 weeks. The masterclass is 5 weeks. It's not going to change your whole life. At the end of this 5 weeks, you're going to be a whole different person. That's like not even the situation. That's not even like a real thing. So anybody that claims that they can change your whole life in those 5 weeks, they're lying to you, girl. You need to turn around and run in the opposite direction, okay? But if you are really ready to make some changes in your life, and if you are really, really ready, you know, to move to the next level in your life, or whatever that means for you, but you really just don't know where to start, and you feel overwhelmed, you feel defeated, you feel just disheartened, you feel miserable, just downright freaking miserable, then the Empower Your Vision Masterclass is for you, okay? So make sure you claim your spot. Head on over to the website. Also, you know, join Trust Village. Trust Village is growing. It's doing really well. We're almost at 600 members, and it's going really well. And I love Trust Village. Shout out to my villagers. The group is just a safe space for healing and manifestation. It is for Black women who are ready to just take their lives to the next level, but they need that extra push. Again, I do a live stream every Tuesday inside of Trust Village, and that's awesome and amazing. So if you haven't joined already, make sure that you do. Also, I just want to make sure that y'all know, if you're interested in having me, like talking to me one on one, that is definitely an option for you. You can head over to the website, and you can fill out the form to get your free 30-minute complimentary exploration session. That is the first step in working with me one on one. I am accepting new clients right now. I'm also working on trying to get onto a couple of other platforms. So I'll let y'all know about those once I get on them. But, if you're interested in working with me one on one, please don't hesitate to go ahead and schedule your exploration session. Also, if you would like for me to come and speak at your event or on your panel, at your conference, on your web conference, whatever it is, just let me know. Shoot me an email at support@latricesampsonrichards.com. And what else? Of course, follow me on all of the social medias at Unicorns Talk Pod, on the website, latricesampsonrichards.com. You can find out anything that you need to know about me on that website. And you can also follow me personally at Latrice Sampson Richards on Facebook and IG, and then on Twitter at LSamRichards. All right. That is all that I have for y'all today, people. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate everything, all of the love, all of the support. Again, if you have not already, make sure you rate and subscribe and comment and all that good stuff. And that's it. I love y'all and I appreciate y'all. And until next time, be well. Bye, y'all.